Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Championship Week video notebook time, day number 6. It
Woohoo!
was Saturday, March 9th, going into Sunday, March 10th already. One of the busiest, actually the busiest day of Championship Week when you include all of the regular season games. But I'm Chad Sherwood. Got David Griggs with me coming to us from the Puppet Bunker, where we're still having some electrical issues,
Yeah. Well,
allegedly, or he may have escaped, but we still think he is in there. At least
yeah. The thing I like the most about Championship Week Day 6 is that the week still has a week to go.
uh, we do have checking out the camera, outside camera here. It looks like the puppet bunker door has not been opened, so that is good news. But we've got to do something about getting that interior video feedback. Maybe
Well,
somebody's gonna have to go in there and fix it. I think at some point.
Chad, I had a great idea. The Sun
Okay.
Belt tournament is in Pensacola. Why don't I leave the bunker and go to Pensacola to cover that tournament?
Um, no, that would mean you were out
No.
of the bunker, and you know you're not allowed out of the bunker. Uh, let's get to news and notes. Hopefully that John Sleeka jumps in here, but he may have fallen asleep for all we know. Let's get to news and notes
He's going to be joining us in a bit.
in a
So
bit. Okay, he'll be jumping in. Let's go through the regular season scores while we wait for Sleeka to jump in here. And there were a lot of important games. These aren't even all the games they played today on the screen. It's just the big ones. I'll kind of go through conference by conference here. In the SEC, the notable games were South Carolina's overtime win over Mississippi State, Kentucky holding on over Tennessee, Alabama.
big win for Kentucky. That's a seed line win, I think.
Oh yeah, and they were up big in that game, and Tennessee came back and tried to take it late.
Yeah.
Also, Alabama needed overtime to beat Arkansas, and Florida Griggs lost at Vanderbilt.
That is kind of crazy considering how strong the Gators were looking. I mean, I think they were shooting up the seed list, 6 line, 5 line range. They're still safely in, but not a good way to end your regular season.
No, they've got to do. Yeah, I agree with you. They're in, but they want to at least pick up a win or two in the SEC tournament to have a lot better momentum than this heading into the
Yes.
NCAA tournament. This is negative momentum. Also on the screen there, Auburn took care of Georgia. A&M kept their at-large bid hopes alive with a road win at Ole Miss. So we'll see if there's any shot for them still.
Yeah.
Uh, the Big East, Creighton had a nice win over Villanova, while Marquette picked up a road win over Xavier, and UConn a road win at Providence. Three big road wins there, Griggs.
Yeah, Creighton really struggled at Nova. Like they jumped out to a big lead, I think, and then Nova came back. Marquette at Xavier. Xavier battled for as much as they struggled, but the highlight of this game, I we need to ask Stalika about this. Uh, the Xavier mascot got ejected. Is that correct?
I'll tell you what, Slika is jumping in here right now as he loads in. Real quick note here: St. John's struggled at home with Georgetown. DePaul sorry, Seton Hall did not struggle with DePaul. Slika, welcome to the show. If you're on, uh,
You there, John?
if you're not, then real quick, we'll get back to the Biggies in a second. Big Ten score down there at the bottom of the screen. Northwestern took care of Minnesota, avoided a bad loss. While a team that did suffer a bad loss in the A10, Griggs, Richmond went to George Mason and lost by 18 points, and that may have killed their at-large hopes.
I think it did. They were sort of flimsy to begin with. They were a first place team, and I think that alone would have gotten them serious consideration. It wouldn't have surprised me had they been selected, but it will now. That is just a horrible loss for the Spiders.
All right. Do we have Stalika yet?
You tell me, do you have me on?
Yes,
We,
we
we,
do.
we have you on audio at least. While you get your video up and running, we want to ask you about what happened to the Marquette Xavier game to the Xavier mascot.
I can only imagine he must have had a few words for the Marquette huddle in the second half, and he was given an early exit, and apparently Xavier's momentum also left with him.
How did the crowd react to the mascot getting ejected?
I believe they were chanting, let him stay," but
That is phenomenal. Uh, did they announce over the PA system that he had been ejected?
that was never announced, but he was
Oh, that is great. Whoever, he might not be the mascot much longer. But
Let's keep running on here. The Big 12 conference. Iowa State, Griggs, a kind of a strange loss at Kansas State. Kansas State maybe still with a remote outside possibility, but I thought Iowa State had been playing so well heading into this game.
They really had been, and there are some question marks about Iowa State in regards to, I mean, certainly not them being selected and certainly not them being a protected seed, but are they going to be as high as their forecast with some questionable losses in an atrocious out of conference schedule?
Yeah. The other marquee, well, we thought it was going to be a marquee game. Kansas went to Houston, and Houston absolutely pummeled them. Stalika, get this. The Big 12 bracket just came out a little while before we started the show here. Kansas is the sixth seed. I've never seen Kansas as a sixth seed at a conference tournament in my life, I don't think.
Well, even in a 12-team league, I can imagine their worst seed probably at that point was about 4 or 5. But this is the most losses they've had in conference play since 1988-89, which was Roy Williams' first season, and a year they were on probation, I might add.
uh, Griggs, Texas with a solid home win over Oklahoma, and TCU with a not so solid home loss to UCF that may suddenly have the Horned Frogs needing another win or two to feel really secure about an NCAA tournament spot.
Yeah, I don't know if they might be sweating a little bit. I still can't imagine them not being selected. But again, some questionable losses, an atrocious out of conference schedule. Maybe they do need another win or two to feel absolutely locked in and safe.
Getting down to the bottom half of the screen there below the Big 12, the American, South Florida, we had been so high on this team. We really thought they had a shot at getting that at-large bid, but they did the one thing they could not afford to do, which was lose to Tulsa.
Right. They've had a great year and they've won a lot of games, and one of their wins better be that last conference tournament game.
I think I agree with you at this point. And Sleeka, Florida Atlantic took care of Memphis. Just when we thought Memphis was getting back in the picture here, FAU took care of them and probably secured their spot.
This was a game that started early on, like Memphis had gotten out to about a 6 or 7 point lead, and I'm starting to think, okay, what is Florida Atlantic's backup plan if they ended up losing that game? But they ended up not having to really worry about that, and they had a 3-point shot to end the first half, and they had all the momentum and managed to hang on in the second half against the Tigers.
Over in the ACC, Wake Forest kept their slim hopes alive with a win at home over Clemson, but maybe not that great of a hope to get in, even with that solid win. And notably was the North Carolina Duke game, and Griggs, North Carolina went to Duke and got the nice 5-point win.
Yeah, a really good win for the Tar Heels. I think that there's 3 teams that are virtually locked into the one line. I think Houston, UConn, and Purdue could miss the bus to their conference tournaments and still end up as 1 seeds. For that last spot, there's about 3 or 4 teams in play, and North Carolina's one of them. That's a great win for them.
And we have Rocco Miller joining us as well as the amount of people on our show. We'll be up to 15 or 20 by the time we're done with this show, Griggs.
Yeah, we're adding 1 or 2 every minute, and we're up. Yeah.
We're still going through some of the regular season results here. Over in the Mountain West, Rocco, just this evening, Utah State. What a celebration with their win over New Mexico to clinch the Mountain West regular season title.
Yeah, the Spectrum is a madhouse. It's like that every night, though. It's not like today was different. And Darius Brown's 3 in the 84-84 tie was just electric. And the way it finished was really interesting, too. They purposely fouled New Mexico. Jalen House makes the first one to cut it to 2. On the second one, he completely airballs it. Every single ref, all 3 of them, didn't call it. And they just did a play on, and game was over.
And amazingly, actually, though, New Mexico got the ball after that and got a shot off, too. So it would have been crazy had they hit it. Yeah. There would have been riots if he had hit that shot, honestly.
Right. It would have been a Utah
madhouse.
State ball up 2 out of bounds with 2.8. But either way, huge result for both teams. Utah State outright champions in the Mountain West for the first time ever. And for New Mexico, a team that really desperately needed one more road win. They did not get it. And Lobos are in trouble going into next week.
I think they are.
As we record this, Nevada and UNLV are very tight halfway through the second half. We're a little bit early here tonight. Other note, real quickly, Colorado State with the win at Air Force. That was important for one reason. We want to congratulate Colorado State. They are the Front Range champions for 2024 with that win, and receive that
Six
automatic
front
bid.
range wins. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, great. Had they lost this game, Wyoming by a winning percentage could have gotten that automatic bid. So Colorado State looks safe for the NCAA tournament with that auto bid now.
Yes.
Uh, Over in the Pac-12, uh, Utah's woes continue while Colorado has continued their big bounce back with a nice road win.
You can go ahead and turn out the lights on the Utes here with back-to-back losses to Oregon State and Oregon and Colorado. Could they have slipped on the right side of the cut line now that they actually got both wins against Oregon and Oregon State? They may need a little bit more damage in the Pac-12 tournament, but given what else is going on with similar bubble teams, I think the Buffaloes helped themselves a lot here in the final week.
And real interesting, Rocco, USC with the win over Arizona could, uh, coupled with to Tennessee's loss to Kentucky, has this suddenly made that fourth one seed really crazy, and maybe North Carolina back in play for it suddenly with what happened today?
Oh, they're certainly in play for it. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to do, when all the results get reset in the morning or whenever it happens overnight. We have one less hour tonight too with the March spring ahead action with the clocks. But I think it'll be very interesting to see how that comparison looks. North Carolina sweeping Duke. Tennessee had that gauntlet to finish. They go 3-1, but of course the one loss was at home. Albeit a protected seed level loss, so it might still favor Tennessee, but I could also see it going to Carolina.
Couple other a little bit of under the radar news here. We'll start at the bottom line there with over at the Ivy League, where we saw Brown go to Yale and pick up an overtime win, which coupled with Princeton's win gave Princeton the outright Ivy League championship. And I think Brown said a little bit notice that they may be a force to be reckoned with next weekend. It's not just a 3-team battle in the Ivy 4. It might be a 4-team battle. Over at CUSA, Sam Houston gets a win to clinch the outright regular season title for Conference USA. In the Big West, UC Irvine wraps up the title there as well. And Cal State Fullerton, by virtue of that loss, actually was eliminated from even qualifying for the Big West tournament. So that note is up there as well. SWAC, I got a few SWAC scores up there in the far right column. This was a shocker here, Griggs. Grambling with a double overtime loss at Alabama State, which among other things gave Alabama State the 8th and final spot into the conference tournament when Pine Bluff proceeded to lose. And now the two teams have to play each other again in the quarterfinal round.
Yeah, in about 3 or 4 days, or I guess 4 days, they'll be playing again. So funny how that works out.
And a shout out to Mississippi Valley. Gave Jackson State a hell of a game on the road, lost only by one.
Wow.
The final game of the season.
Yeah.
Awesome game.
Yeah.
They were tied with like 2 minutes to go. Almost pulled it off.
They really did. Quinnipiac wrapped up the outright regular season title of the Metro Atlantic with their win over St. Peter's. Grand Canyon did the same with their win over California Baptist. Threw in there that Utah Tech loss just because that knocked Utah Tech out of the WAC tournament. They won't make that WAC 8, even though they were already eliminated by being a transitional team. That's all the regular season games, I think. It's a lot of them. I know we went pretty quick, but we got a lot more to get to, starting with the first automatic bid being given out. It was OVC championship game. Rocco, let me start with you here. Morehead State, I thought they looked phenomenal pretty much the entire game tonight against Little Rock.
Yeah, really impressive performance. It was seesaw in the first half, and Morehead really flexed their muscle in the second half. Clearly just the better coach team. Preston Spradlin, phenomenal adjustments. Riley Minix had a great game himself, and they were just well prepared, ready to go tonight. And I thought Little Rock hasn't, during their streak, I know they beat Morehead once, but with everything on the line, that was just a whole different environment, I thought, for them, kind of getting the easier path as the 1 seed, whereas Morehead got tested, whether it be through some injuries in the last couple of weeks, but also with a tough semifinal with Tennessee Martin. And Man, they didn't miss a beat. I was just really impressed because Moorhead had the tougher path with 3 straight nights of victories starting Thursday. But they did it, and they proved they're the best. And with some of their good metrics, and with what I would expect to be some upsets other places, we'll talk about the Big South. We had one there. Pretty good chance for Moorhead to land up as high as a 14, I think.
Seesaw would be putting it mildly. It was 4-4 at one point. Moorhead had a 17-0 run, and that was followed by a 14-0 run by Little Rock. And to answer, Moorhead scored 8 straight unanswered point themselves to get back in control.
Yeah, and this Moorhead State team, I think they could be a dangerous team come the NCAA tournament too. I would not be totally shocked if they could pull off an upset here, especially if they get that 14 lining, maybe a 3 seed that's
Like Iowa State.
I was going to say, look at well, Iowa State or like a Marquette who's a little banged up heading into the tournament, maybe someone like that.
Yeah.
Griggs, it was semifinal day in Arch Madness, where Indiana State did really not have much trouble with Northern Iowa, but the Drake Bradley game was a hell of a game.
Yeah, big win for Drake that went into overtime, I believe. Indiana State, and this was a Northern Iowa team that had been playing pretty well, and Indiana State hadn't always flexed their muscles, but they have in this tournament. So the chalk holds. Drake and Northern Iowa, the two front runners for most of the year. I know Bradley was in the mix for a minute. I'll defer to Rocco. I think Indiana State has done enough. I think they're going to get selected. They were the first place team. They've already played Drake twice. I don't know if you should be punished for failing to do something that you've already done. You know, they've beaten. They've already beaten.
They
them.
split. They
Yeah,
split.
they split. Okay. I think pretty much Indiana State's profile is what it is, whether they win or lose, and that it's good enough. Drake, I think, does need the win. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Indiana State, worst case scenarios, they lose to Drake, who's not, on a neutral court. That's an okay loss. And I think all of their other numbers and getting a couple of wins in Arch Madness, which will all be accounted for because the committee won't start their meetings till Wednesday morning. I think Sycamores have done enough. I think some of the bubble activity has helped as well. You look at Villanova losing, Providence losing. They're both well behind the Sycamores now. As an example, I'd put New Mexico well behind. Even Iowa still has work to do tomorrow. And then you have teams like Mississippi State and Oklahoma that might be entering this discussion too. So all in all, I think we know how the voting works within a committee. I think the committee is going to feel a little safer putting Indiana State ahead, maybe every team I just listed.
I'd throw TCU on that list too, Rocco. That home loss to UCF and that bad non-conference schedule.
Yeah, horrible quad 1 record at 2-10. Then you got a bad loss now. So
and a great quad 4 record, but you shouldn't have a incredible quad 4 record. You should play better competition.
Right.
I think it's required for you to be accepted as a Big 12 member.
All right, Stalika, it was semifinal day in the Northeast Conference as well, and let's start again, I guess, with the bottom game, which was the first one. That was that Merrimack Lemoyne game, and I thought Lemoyne gave a hell of an effort here, at least.
It was a hell of an effort, but I don't remember this game getting any closer than 4 points in the second half. So this is one of the reasons why Moorhead ended up getting the first automatic bid and not the winner of the NEC, or at least the NEC semifinalist that would have been facing Lemoyne here. So fortunately, we'll at least get to see Merrimack hosting for Wagner for what will be a legit conference champion that at least gets to advance to the tournament. I had a feeling Wagner would pull off at least one upset. I wasn't sure if they were going to pull off 2 or not, but lo and behold, Central Connecticut State is out.
Yeah, Wagner only with 7 players on the roster. They've got a 7-man rotation. Really only a 6-man true rotation. They got their 7th guy only gets about 5 or 6 minutes a game. Somehow they pulled off back-to-back road wins over 2 pretty good teams. I don't know that they could do it again at Merrimack on Tuesday, but
at least they get to rest.
Yeah, they get the rest. I'm excited for Merrimack. I know they won this event last year. They get to host it again, and this time, if they win, they do get the bid. It's a showcase moment for that school, and they deserve it. I'm nothing
Yeah, I
against
mean,
Central Connecticut, but yeah,
I agree with that from Mary Mac's perspective. I think Wagner, you look at their tempo, they're 360 out of 362. Possession length, they're 357 out of 362. So
They got to be with
they
only
milk
7 players.
yeah,
exactly. Well, they milk every possession, and they play tough. Like they play really really tough. But on the nights where they can't shoot, they get pretty beat up. We've seen that a few times in NEC play. And Mary Mac, one of the best defenses, not only in low major basketball, probably the best defense in low major basketball, but one of the better defenses anywhere in America. Joe Gallo really dials it in. They gave all sorts of fits to Lemoyne today. Lemoyne was stuck around 40 points with about 4 minutes to go. Pretty much watched the whole game, and I think that's going to be a surgical job probably on Wagner, who has a below average offense to begin with.
It was a hell of a day, an amazing day, honestly, in the Big South. A pair
wow,
of overtime semifinal
Incredible.
games, beginning with, I guess, Rocco, the upset, one of the biggest upsets of championship week so far, I think, just because it's maybe what happened to the A Sun a little bit more than this, but Longwood wins at High Point in overtime. Great game here.
Yeah, beat them for the second straight week. Beat them last Saturday too, and I think Longwood has really. They're an amazing story because I think before the season we thought they'd be a contender. They dealt with a lot of problems at the start of league play. At one point on February 7th, the Lancers were 2-8 in league, and then they rallied and won 4 out of 6, won a couple tiebreakers to get the 5 seed. They could have easily been a 7 or an 8 seed in this tournament. But came out playing great. I think that High Point win to end the year really got them elevated confidence wise. At one point today, High Point led by quite a bit. I think up to as high
yeah,
as 15 or so. And Longwood just would not go away. Eventually battled their way back and got a little bit of luck along the way. I thought Duke Miles had a really good look to tie it. Missed it. Hamilton just put it back, and I think he might have forgot they were down by 3, which is why it ended up being a 1-point final score. But man, they're playing their best ball at the right time, which is obviously what March is all about.
Well, I don't think there was enough time on the clock, honestly, Rocco, for him to have kicked it out
Yeah.
for a free anyhow at that point.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was kind of
Mute point.
maybe his best shot was by putting it back up. Maybe somebody fouls him. But the other game here, Slika, Asheville with the win over Gardner Webb, and how about a shout out to Drew Pember, a triple double in this game, 30 points, 13 boards, 10 assists.
He's going to be a bit of a problem for Longwood coming into the championship game right here. And then you look at Asheville wearing down Gardner Webb in overtime.
yeah. And Rocco, you kind of called this yesterday. I was expecting High Point to basically walk into the championship game, and they didn't. It is still special. I'd like to congratulate High Point. They are hosting the championship game. They're just not playing it.
Okay.
Drew Pember was interviewed after the game too, and they lost to Longwood last time as well. So he seemed pretty hungry going into tomorrow night. And I think it'll be a fascinating game because Longwood got to play first, so a couple extra hours of rest. And of course, both games went to overtime, so Asheville's going to have to do the quicker turnaround and recover. But it is, I think, an evening tip-off. So
No,
it's
it's a 12 noon tip off.
there you
Yeah.
go. So it's even more important. So a little edge to Longwood on the rest side of things, but the Pember thing I think is pretty important because he came back to get to the tournament. So he will be a man possessed tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, I think he does get to the tournament tomorrow. Nice run by Longwood. I think it ends.
Yeah.
SoCon, it was quarterfinal round day here, and Griggs, we had 3 games that were kind of snoozers. Although one of them was East Tennessee State's upset of Greensboro, where they kind of led wire to wire in that game, and then a really good game to end the night between Western Carolina and Furman.
Yeah, kind of a disappointing way for Greensboro's season to end. They had some good moments. I want to say they had that win at Arkansas and really got our attention at some point. But the rest of them, Sanford put away Mercer, Chattanooga. That Wofford game was close for a little bit, but not for long. And but the other, I know the one you're talking about, the Furman Western Carolina game.
Yeah, Salika, JP Pegues had 28 points for Furman here, and they were able to find a way to get the game into overtime and find a way to win it.
Well, if you also want to talk about slow starts, Samford, not the easiest start, but eventually they start to cruise against Mercer. They cannot fall into an early hole against Furman because Furman and Chattanooga, as I've alluded to, they both have the most recent tournament experience in the SoCon, and wouldn't surprise me to see them in the championship game again.
Yeah, I kind of laughed when you said that yesterday, but Rocco, I think we might be online for a Furman Chattanooga final again.
It could definitely happen. I think at this point, all the teams that played today, maybe minus East Tennessee State because they are younger and coming off of they won so handily though. I feel like they'll be pretty fresh tomorrow, despite it's their third game of this tournament. VMI wasn't much of a sweat either, so they conserved their energy from that one as well. I think that's possible. I really do. Furman's finally healthy, but they had an overtime game today.
It was overtime. It was the last game of the day, and by virtue of some strange time frames here, I didn't realize why the SoCon did it this way. They now have to play the early game tomorrow.
I think they built it in to give the one seed a little bit of a extra advantage.
Yeah. Well, they let the one seed. They played 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed in that order.
Yep.
Today, as opposed to going straight down the bracket.
Rocco, that is why they did it.
Yeah,
it's the same order the Metro. It's the same order the Metro Atlantic uses, except they do it in like 2 different days, where it's like 1 and 2 one day, 3 or 4 the other day.
Yeah. America East. It was quarterfinal round day, and while if you look on the screen there, it says okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4 all won. Other than Bryant not having much trouble with Maine, Rocco, all 3 other games were really close games most of the way.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I had most of the second half of the Albany Vermont game on.
Oh my goodness!
Albany was leading in the final minute. Vermont TJ Long with a massive 3 that changed, that flipped the game. Albany never scored again, and then Vermont closed it out on the foul line. Actually, they really didn't. They kept missing free throws, but they survived it. I had a couple pictures of that on Twitter where the fans were just completely chewing their fingernails off. But awesome American East day, and then the UMass Lowell game. UMBC kind of had them a lot of the way. But Lowell is tough, and it's an older team, and they really stepped up at the end to get that thing to OT, and then they controlled the overtime period.
Yeah, 27 points, 16 rebounds for Quentin Mincy there for Lowell today, too. That was
incredible,
hell of a performance. These games are not till Tuesday, but it'll be New Hampshire at Vermont, Bryant at Lowell. We can talk about it again Monday night a little bit, but I think Vermont might have gotten their wake-up call in their game today with Albany. We'll see, though. It was quarterfinal round day also in the Sun Belt. And Greg, let's start with the top half there. While Arkansas State did not have much trouble with Louisiana, App State was a completely different story against Georgia Southern. I thought the game lost a couple times there.
I did too. Like they were behind for much of that game, and at times it looked like that Georgia Southern was kind of in control. They really sidestepped a landmine because while we were making a case that App State could get on the bubble or in the bubble, not if they'd have lost this. It would have been all over, and they might need to win the next one too. We are still positioned to get the JMU App State final, and it'll be interesting to see how the committee evaluates both those teams. I think James Madison has a strong case, but App State finished ahead of them and beat them twice. So
App State is lucky that the bank was closed on Saturday because it looked like Georgia Southern was driving in for a game winner, but he tried to go high on the bank, ended up missing, and they took advantage of their next lease on life.
Yeah, and interesting semifinals tomorrow. We've got App State, Arkansas State, and Rocco. We have James Madison against Texas State. I mentioned it last night. Here they are, second straight year as 11th seed. They're in the semifinals.
Yeah, they've done it again as the 11th seed. It's pretty incredible. They actually started playing well down the stretch. It was unfortunate. I think they lost some tiebreakers to end up 11, which was a big difference because 10 got you into the next round. But playing well, they survived that huge, crazy finish with Old Dominion, new lease on life. caught Troy off guard. Good matchup for Texas State. I think they played well against them earlier this year too. But I do think James Madison's a buzzsaw, and ideally for selection they are, because I think if James Madison wins tomorrow, I'm going to have a really difficult time seeing any scenarios to leave them out of the field. Because at that point they'll get their 29th D1 win. It would be unprecedented to leave them out. And I think, in general, like how many wins do you got to get when you're in their situation and you have a road Michigan State win? So I like James Madison to make the NCAA tournament if they win tomorrow. You can put me on record with that.
I agree with you. Stalika, it was first two quarterfinals of the Summit League today. While South Dakota State did not have too many problems with Oral Roberts, Kansas City thought they looked like the first half like we would cruise over Denver, but it ended up being a completely different story in the second half.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a feeling that the bottom half of the bracket here not likely to produce a winner, because I still go by a little bit more recent history and experience in this tournament. Kansas City not at that level yet. South Dakota State, even though it seems like they've had to reset their roster a bit in recent years, they survive against Oral Roberts.
And this amazing game here, Denver finally got the lead with 5 seconds left on a three-pointer and then a block on the final shot to win it here. Rocco, your thoughts on that and about these two other quarterfinals tomorrow, St. Thomas, North Dakota State, North Dakota, Omaha.
Yeah, it's unfortunately for the Kansas City Roos, because they're such a good defensive team, but sometimes they just go in those scoring droughts, and that allowed Denver to plug their way back in. Denver's an electric offensive team if they're playing the way they prefer to play. So Kansas City totally controlled all 40 minutes, but didn't get enough points buried early enough, and then went cold. And Denver capitalized there late, made the big shot. And now Denver actually assumes that 2-seed spot because it's the extra rest that the Summit bracket builds in. So I think, I don't know. I think this really opens up for South Dakota State. I think St. Thomas is the team I'm most interested in. We've seen them play well in stretches, but we've also seen them lay eggs in certain cases as well. So I want to see how St. Thomas comes out.
I'll pull up the WCC bracket. I've not actually seen any final scores on the screen even, but Santa Clara, right as we were starting the show, just went final. They took care of San Diego fairly easily, 104-79. They'll get St. Mary's on Monday.
Yeah.
But Griggs, San Francisco Portland hasn't even tipped yet as we're recording this, or it's just getting ready to tip now. Can you quick give 3 seconds for people on what that are watching tomorrow morning on what happened during this game?
Yes, San Francisco won.
Okay. And if San Francisco lost, can you tell people what happened in the game?
Portland won.
Okay. Yeah, we'll run over that San Francisco Portland game real quickly tomorrow night in our bracket rundown show if there's anything really worth mentioning in it. But again, Santa Clara did not have any problems at all with San Diego tonight. They'll get St. Mary's on Monday.
Great tournament so far. Exciting games. Wow.
You want to talk about a tournament without exciting games again? Stalika, 4 games in the Coastal. Our John Titel was there, and he didn't have very much fun, I don't think, because all 4 were kind of snoozers.
I don't think he had much fun watching the games, but I apparently learned during the post-game presser. I guess we are now a pay site that charges like $5.99 per year. I'm going to have to ask Titel or Chad for details on that.
Yeah,
what? I've been locked in the bunker.
He was at the pro. Who was he? Who was he interviewing? Stalika?
Pat Scarry.
He was interviewing Pat Scarry after the game at the press conference, and Pat made a comment. He made a comment about Towson having not come back from a halftime deficit all season, or only once all season before this. And Pat Scarry said, "I didn't even know that had happened." But over there at Hoops HD, you guys must all know this stuff because you charge that $5.99 a year. So everyone, if you want to send us $5.99 a year, please feel free to do so. But we are not charging quite yet. But it was kind of fun. If you can find those post game conferences out there on YouTube, take a look at them. Rocco, what about tomorrow though? We've got. I think we've got 7, maybe even 8 teams that can win this conference tournament all playing tomorrow.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing Monmouth beating Charleston, but you never know. I mean, Monmouth's
Yeah.
pretty much a wild card and nothing to lose. So, and they won pretty comfortably today. So we'll see how that goes. Wilmington Towson, I think, will be a good battle. I actually probably lean a little bit Towson. Wilmington leaked a ton of oil down the stretch before finally winning that season finale. We'll see if the Seahawks can build off that. The team I've been looking at the whole time is if anybody's going to make a run from a higher seed is Stony Brook. I think they've got 3 or 4 offensive weapons. But I think Drexel's really strategic in how they use their big man, Amari Williams. So I can't pick it, but watch out for Stony Brook. They might, if they come out hot, they could have I could see them having a 15, 20-point lead early. And that might be too much for Drexel to come back from. And then Hofstra has been so hot, I can't pick against them. I like Hofstra actually to get to the finals either way, but we'll see.
Well, you know, Delaware, it's as if they didn't play today. They were up 40 points at the end of the first half. It was
If
they are not tired.
Inglesby, I would, if I was Inglesby, I would not have let anybody play more than 20 minutes today.
Griggs, it was also first round day in the Big Sky Conference today, where by seeding wise, we had a pair of upsets here: Sacramento State over Idaho, and Idaho State over Northern Arizona.
Yeah. And, I'm sort of glad they got their moment to win in advance. I don't see either one of them doing it tomorrow.
That was my question. Those are the 2 games. There's only 2 quarterfinals tomorrow. It's Sacramento State, Eastern Washington, Northern Colorado, Idaho State. Can either one of them win? And I guess you've already answered it for us.
Yeah, they cannot.
Well, yeah, I'll mention that on the finale. Eastern had already clinched the 1 seed, but on the finale, Sac State and Eastern were tied with a minute to go. Again, not understanding.
Sac State won that game.
No, Eastern won at the end.
Yeah, it was at Sacramento State.
Okay.
It was
they
out
almost
here.
lost. Okay.
Yeah.
But Sac State played good down the stretch. They've now won 3 of 4 with the only loss being that game. So I like the way they're playing. I mean, they haven't played like this all year. So maybe something to keep an eye on. And then in terms of Idaho State, Northern Colorado actually swept them, but the first game was double overtime, and the second game was by 2. So don't take either one of them for granted. Is my point.
All right. I hope they are interesting. They're fun games. But we'll see. That actually concludes all of the games that were played today. We are going back to another couple conferences that have already started, though, tomorrow, including at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the A-Sun Championship game. Stalika, Austin Peay is at Stetson. Do the Hatters get their first ever NCAA tournament bid?
There was one point on Thursday where it looked like North Alabama was actually going to be hosting Jacksonville for the title game, but as you can see, that did not come to fruition right here. And I think Stetson's probably going to be in line to get their first bid, and this might actually be their first Division I bid that I can remember. I know they've hosted tournaments frequently in Orlando, but have never played in the tournament themselves.
Yes, this would be their first ever NCAA tournament bid in over 50 years in D1. And not a very great history there. I believe they have 2 CBI appearances. That's their entire postseason history heading into this year. But Griggs, do you agree with him? Do you think Stetson wins this?
I think they do. I hope that they have their moment. They get to host the game on their home floor. Congrats to them for at least getting to this point, and hopefully they can get it across the finish line. And Dayton's lovely this time of year.
Rocco,
yeah.
Rocco, it is Patriot League semifinal day tomorrow. Bucknell's at Colgate, Lehigh's at BU. Can we at least get a close game in this tournament finally, or is it we have 2 more blowouts?
I think Lehigh BU should be awesome. I actually watched the game a week and a half ago when it went to OT and BU hit that game-winning layup. I know I'm crazy, but I watched that game, and they're going to be confident. It's the same scenario. Actually, that game was at Lehigh. Now BU gets them at home. Of course, Lehigh wants revenge. BU actually swept Lehigh, but the first one was by 1, and the second one was a game-winning layup in overtime. So that game, there's no reason to think it won't be close, in my opinion. But you never know. I actually am picking Lehigh because I think they're starting to really play together and well since that loss. And I think the bigger sample size going through most of February, I like Lehigh a little bit more. And then Bucknell, they to their credit, they've played terrific defense. like we talked about, I picked them in this American game in the first round. I think this is where it stops. Colgate really handled them pretty easily both times this year, so I think that one could be a snoozer if you're looking to take a nap.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Griggs, one more conference to get to tomorrow. It is first round day in the Southland Conference. We've got New Orleans against Southeastern Louisiana and Northwestern State against Texas A&M Commerce. Any thoughts on these two amazing games?
I mean, it's just going to be lights out. I'm kind of disappointed that they restructured the format of this tournament and they got rid of the Texas and Louisiana divisions like they did in years past. But
that happened one year. All Texas teams were in one half of the bracket. All Louisiana teams were in the
yeah,
other half of the bracket. It was hysterical.
um, I guess like I guess I'm going to go ahead and pick the chalk here, but anyway, it's a long climb up that ladder
It
for
is.
these teams.
Uh, and McNeese wins this, correct?
Yes, I think so. How
Salika
many
Mc,
D1 wins will they get to if they? What are they at now for D1 wins?
yeah, Rocco. Any shot that McNeese gets an at-large bid if they lose in the championship game, or do they just have to win this?
No, mainly because it's a home loss, so
Mhm.
it's just going to be it's going to be quad four, even if they were in a road game, probably. But imagine taking that at home; it's a really far out of bounds loss. But on that note, I think the one team that could really give them a fight is Corpus Christi. They have already, and Corpus Christi outside of the McNeese games, they've been really impressive. They've been handling their business. Really proud of Jim Shaw, first year there, long time assistant, very long time assistant, long old JUCO guy, knows everybody in the region. So for their sake, I hope the Islanders can get to the finals because I think they've really earned it. It's just too bad there's no postseason for a team like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Salika, do you agree also, McNeese?
Yeah, it's going to be like what is it? One step up each. Well, one step up the ladder each way, but it's basically going to be 10 steps trying to reach McNeese at this point. There's no way they're going to fall at home.
That's it for all the games tomorrow. So let's go and check in on our survival board. This is where we are doing a few things, among which we are tracking the number of teams left with a chance to make the NCAA tournament and potentially win it all. We had 274 of those teams alive heading into play today as a result of today's games. And by the way, as a result of today's games heading into the start of our show, at least tonight, we had 246 left, and that will actually
Wow.
be down to 244 because since we started the show, we already saw San Diego fall off the board, and we will see the loser of this other Portland-San Francisco game fall off as well. So 244 teams left by tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Big jump here today, Griggs.
Get your T-shirts ready. Not the final four, but the final 244. Campus bookstores should be packed.
We also have teams in various different categories on the screen here. Some of them are in blue, like say Morehead State is in blue. And first of all, congrats to them, the first team in blue, bold, all caps. What does that mean if you're in blue, whether it's all caps or not all caps?
Well, the committee has to take you, so they're getting in.
All right, and so this is a service we do for that committee.
So what
What's
happens
that?
if the committee tries to put Little Rock in instead of Morehead by
Well, they
virtue of
can't.
winning the regular season?
Well, there's no way they're going to do that because Morehead State's in blue.
Right. This is a service we do for the committee, correct, Riggs?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we do this for the committee. We know they're watching, and they come on, look at this board, and they know who to select, not to select, and who to discuss.
Right. So if one of the committee members says Little Rock, maybe they're in red and crossed off, so they are not allowed to take them.
Yeah,
But they should be considering where Morehead State goes, as they should be considering teams like Arizona and Washington State. Those are all in. Now, what if a committee member says, "What do we do about Texas A&M? They just had a nice road win today at Ole Miss. They're in green."
That's one of those times where they when they call us, we have to tell them it's up to you.
We're not going to do everything for you.
Right, yeah.
You can check this out there on top of the website. You can also check out all the conference tournament brackets, the team sheets, everything. What's left? Our top 10.
Oh yes.
All right. This is our top 10 things to see at college basketball games. We've been counting these down during the 14 days of the week known as Championship Week. We started with a few honorable mentions quickly to recap them. We had the Hornets Nest Trophy, the Kennesaw Banana,
Yes.
Keggy the Keg,
Yeah.
and the crooked sidelines at the Cross Center up in Bangor, Maine.
Yeah.
But then we still those few days, we started to our actual top 10 here. Coming in at number 10 was the Detroit Book Guy.
Yes.
And last night, coming in at number 9, you could see him at every single game out there, I believe. He's, in fact, at 3 or 4 games right now as we record this, Rocco
Yeah.
Miller.
Yeah.
And he's on our podcast. Let's go
Amazing.
for 9, though. Number 9 thing to see at college basketball games that makes them just amazing to go to here.
Yeah.
It's Red Panda.
Yes.
Uh,
So a few notes about Red Panda. I think she's a lawyer. She used to have her own law firm, and she went in one day and told her staff, "I have made a decision. I am going to close the law firm and purchase a unicycle and work on balancing dishes on my head as a new unique career move."
well, you know what, Grace? This I gotta say, a team has not made it unless Red Panda is doing your halftime show. Am I not right?
You are correct about that.
Mhm.
What I would love to know, if I could ask her one question, is how exactly did you discover you had this very unique skill, and how did you learn how to do it? Like, I mean, if any one of us decided we even wanted to attempt this, it would not go well.
I'll tell you, Greg said there's another well-known fact about not so well-known fact about Red Panda.
Oh, really? Really?
It's historical here, and I know that you really didn't want me talking about this, but little known fact that I believe it was 12 or 13 years ago during championship week, David Griggs was such a fan of Red Panda that he actually followed her around to every single game she was at during championship week. And sometimes there were multiple games a single day. She'd go to one venue, then another. And
Yeah.
well, as a result of what her lawyers from her former law firm did following David Griggs following her around so
I'm
much,
not supposed to discuss this.
that's one of the reasons we have the puppet bunker, everybody. We can't let him out.
And that's also why we have guard dogs patrolling the bunker this year.
Yeah.
On that note, though, let's go to final thoughts here. And Sleek, let me start with you.
Apparently, we have managed to potentially go 3 for 3 as far as consecutive days following the coaching carousel. It looks like Brian Mullins for Southern Illinois, another coach that is potentially going to be on the way out. And this is for the 5 seasons that followed. Barry Henson, still no tournament appearances for the Salukis in this time frame.
Yeah. Rocco.
Yeah, interesting day around the bubble this far. Of course, Iowa versus Illinois is really important tomorrow in terms of that. But the teams that I had just in James Madison, Colorado, Virginia, Indiana State, South Florida. Well, we'll talk about South Florida in a second. But they all held serve, and South Florida, of course, didn't, but they're penciled in as an auto bid regardless. And then on the outside, I thought it was a good day for St. John's, even though St. John's really needs the help of Villanova, a team they beat twice. Villanova, of course, really played poorly out of the gate, ended up losing close to Creighton. Probably took on too many losses to get the invite now. That hurts a little bit to St. John's from one side of things, but from the other side of things, New Mexico, Villanova, Memphis, Providence, Utah, all lost. And St. John's is still sitting there. Now Pittsburgh's creeping closer. Drake's creeping closer, even though Drake's only got one game left. So yeah, it's kind of fascinating how the teams usually teams that inside fall and go outside, and outside teams jump in. It was like everybody stayed on their sides of the fence today.
Yeah. I guess we're giving a shout there to St. John's for barely beating Georgetown, but they won the game, right?
Holding serve is holding serve, Chad.
Exactly. Griggs, you want to finish off the show?
Yeah, just real quick, I want the CIT back. I kind of hate more so for anything that High Point had a really good year. That fan base was really jacked for that tournament. I think they sold it out yesterday in the day. And then it's just the suddenness of it. Like in a 24-hour period, you go from being as dialed in and as excited and on a pedestal that you hadn't really experienced maybe ever as a program to done and nothing, no NIT, because they're not going to be invited to that, and I just want the CIT back. It was a great tournament. I believe the field was between 24 and 32 teams given the year. And the only disqualifier was if your conference got multiple teams into the NCAA tournament, they wouldn't invite you. Is that right?
No,
It was all one bid.
no, it was the 6 power conferences were not invited in, and 1 or 2 others. I think the Mountain West also was not invited, but you had to be a
Okay.
smaller conference team. That was the one disqualifier. The other
And I love
disqualifier
the event.
was
College
no losing records. Also, no losing
Yeah,
records allowed.
College Insiders did a great job with it. We saw some great atmospheres and some great games in that event. I loved it. I want it back.
Yeah,
And
it's a shame.
The other thing
Yeah.
on that note, Griggs, is if you think about it, none of these teams that are usually in the NIT are going to be able to go. That would make that field, whether it's College Insider or somebody else throwing the event, even
Yeah.
stronger. If you have
Yeah.
you would have a High Point, you would have a Little Rock, you would have an Eastern Kentucky already going there. Get all those
Yeah.
teams in the same event, it'll be even stronger than it ever has been before.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I guess on that note, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We will be back again tomorrow night after all the games are over with another video notebook. I know we cheated a little bit tonight, but on behalf of John Salika, David Griggs, and Rocco Miller, check them out at bracketeer.org, at Rocco Miller 8 on X. I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.